Hello, trading is closed on May 21st, 2018. My last call said I was looking for a gap outside of Friday's range. I said if it were down, we should reverse. If it were up, it should be very strong, and that's what happened. This number gets taken off the list. We get to add this one, most likely to print tomorrow. As always, gapping down smartly usually takes this out of reach. During the day, MEJT said this drop was false. Says we're going to print up here. Now the pattern we have today is the opposite of the one we had Friday. You'll recall Friday we gapped down, hit a lower low, couldn't close under any of these lows. That's a rejection of the lows. It means unless we take them out early today, higher prices should print. Here we have a gap up, higher high. The close was under all these highs. That's a rejection of the highs. So unless we reverse this early tomorrow, lower prices should print. So we have a negative pattern here, a higher MEJT target, conflicting signals. Commonest thing is we move outside the day's range. Next most common is close little change, have the big move Wednesday. Now tomorrow's pattern, the one with the early high, has a strong tendency to rally into the close. So even if we do gap down and trade lower, that doesn't mean we're going to close lower necessarily, but a large gap down probably is going to be impossible to get this. Let's take a look at some other stuff. I haven't looked at the DeMark stuff too much lately. Frankly, all the way up it gave signals that didn't work, but it did give a sell signal right at the high. And since it's signaling something, again, it pays to look at what it has to say. Here was the sell signal. The X is bar 13. When these things pay off, they usually take out the origin of the pattern, the TDST line, very quickly, ideally within 3 bars. This one took about 6. That usually means there's more to come. Now here we have a buy signal. It's a signal that you're overextended on the downside. Overextended conditions can be taken care of either by correcting in terms of price, which didn't happen since we haven't taken out the TDST line, or this line or this one, or they can be corrected in terms of time. When number 22 prints, bar 22 of countdown, time's up. It means that you've spent enough time without recovering above critical levels and the buy signal's no longer active. Until we say otherwise, I still think taking out the TDST line here until we take this out is significant and look for lower prices. Now, what makes life interesting, that was the daily chart. Here's the weekly. And last Friday, we printed bar 13 of a sequential sell signal. Now, this started way back in September. The longer the time period of the bars, the more significant the signal, the more likely it's going to work. And the smaller the number of the bar of the high, usually the more significant the signal. In other words, the earlier you finish before bar 13, when it works, the more of a response you get. You really want to see this TDST line taken out pretty quickly, and that's about just under 24.50. Now, the stop loss on this is based on the close, so we can go way up here as long as we drop by Friday. And the signal just gives the area of the high, not the exact high print. And the stop loss is way up here someplace because you have to measure this length and add it to the top. So stop loss isn't really practical for all intents and purposes. But if this works, it looks for a drop into the middle 2400s. A lot of these haven't worked, but that's what it says. In alignment with the daily and the weekly is the monthly. Here's bar 13. You really want to drop within 3 bars, but it can be more, particularly when the pattern recycles, which means you count over again, and it didn't really end until here. So you have daily, weekly, and monthly DeMark signals in alignment saying we're going much lower. Again, they failed many times, but they did work at the top. Now, I was hoping that that blue 2 is going to end here. We had the gap down, I had time, I had price, I had everything. If that were the end of blue 2, I would have expected to see an impulse wave down, something like this one. That didn't happen, and it's really killed when we take out the high of this blue 2, question mark. Well, that hasn't happened either, so let's look at these few bars. Here's what we had as the end of 2. We have this as A, but there's no reason it can't complete the ABC. We just have to explain what's going on here. Well, here's your possible 2. Here was your 5 waves down. We had an ABC up. Here's where I was hoping to see an impulse down. That didn't happen. We had this thing. I said if we went up, it would be a triangle, but instead it's morphed into a clear 5-wave pattern. And what makes life interesting is wave A is exactly equal to wave C. Now this all could be an ABC of a larger A, and we could just consolidate some more. But if we start an impulse down here, and that hasn't happened yet, but if we do, that could be the end of 2. I could get my wave 3 down after all. So we're coming to a critical time. We really haven't invalidated the possible top over here where I had all my stuff working for me. For tomorrow, if we start down with conviction, it could be the start of something big. If we gap down smartly, this probably won't print. But if we don't get a huge down move, I have this target here, over here, and without a strong impulse, it's pretty hard to keep the faith with this being the end of blue 2 and the start of blue 3. If I see it, I'll believe it, but I haven't seen it yet. So here's the target. If we don't clear this high early, lower prices print. Be alert for a big drop. If it happens, could be the real thing. And that's today's call.